and you could see that I'm not a warrior. Besides, the Lord hasn't done much for us lately. You can see the condition Israel is in.
The Lord will be with you. Now go and deliver the people from their enemies.
I don't mean to doubt you, but is the Lord sure He knows who I am and what He's asking me to do? Let me prepare an offering and think about it.
So Gideon prepared an offering and presented it to the Lord. He laid meat and bread on a rock, and fire from heaven came down and consumed it.
Okay, so you are the Lord, I believe. Wait a minute, where are you going? What am I supposed to do now? Lord, I have to be sure this is you. I don't mean to test you, but would you send me some proof? If I lay a fleece of wool on the grass in the morning, would you make the fleece dry and the grass wet?
So Gideon laid out a fleece on the ground, and he went to bed. In the morning, Gideon went and checked the fleece of wool and found that it was dry, but the grass was covered with dew and was very wet.
So, Gideon, do you believe me now? Go and deliver my people.
Don't be mad, God, but could you just give me one more sign? This time, when I lay out the fleece, could you make the fleece wet and keep the grass dry?
And so God did this for Gideon. The next morning, Gideon got up and went out to check the fleece of wool, and he found it dripping with water. But the grass he was walking on and all around the fleece was bone dry.
Okay, Lord, I'll do whatever you say. I'll gather all the men of war and tell them what we are to do. You do know, Lord, that there are a lot more Midianites than there are Israelites.
So Gideon gathered all the men and presented them to the Lord.
What is this, Gideon? You have way too many warriors. Here is what I want you to do. First, send home all who are afraid to fight.
$22,000 men left, but 10,000 stayed to fight.
Gideon, you still have too many men.
But Lord,
have the men gather at the water's edge for a drink of water. Keep a very watchful eye and separate those who lap water with their hands from those who get down on their bellies and lap water like a dog.
From the 10,000 soldiers that remained, only 300 drank water from their hand. The rest were sent back to their tents. That night the Lord spoke to Gideon again.
Get up. Go down against the Midianites' camp. I'm going to hand them over to you.
But what if we're afraid?
Take your servant Purah with you. Go down close to the Midianite camp and listen to what they are saying.
So Gideon and Purah snuck down to the edge of the Midianite camp.
I had a dream. a round loaf of barley bread came rolling into the camp of the Midianites. It hit a tent with great force. Then the tent turned over and fell down flat.
That can only be the sword of Gideon. Gideon is from Israel. God has handed the Midianites over to him. God has given him the whole camp.
Gideon heard the man explain the dream. Gideon then returned to his camp and worshiped God.
Get up! Get up! The Lord has handed the Midianites over to you. You will go out in 3 companies. Each of you will get a trumpet and an empty pitcher and a torch. Follow me and do what I do.
The soldiers all followed Gideon to the enemy's camp. They circled around the outside of the Midianites' camp, and God gave Gideon instructions. They all were to blow their trumpets, and break their pitchers and hold the torches high in the air, and then shout, "A sword for the Lord and for Gideon." And that is just what they did. And while Gideon's army just stood and watched the Midianites begin to fight with each other, others ran fleeing for their lives. The men of Israel pursued them and sent messengers to have other armies come and help them catch the ones trying to run away. God defeated the army of the Midianites and saved Israel. Without God, none of this was possible. But with God, nothing is impossible. The next time you're in a tough situation, know that God can give you strength, and He wants to help you. Just ask Him, and He will.